I had that dream again. My small business needs to hire, but I don't use LinkedIn, and I hire wrong. So our orders get all backed up. We're drowning in paperwork, then actually drowning. Carol is fighting off sharks with a stapler, and pirates are pillaging the office copier, and then I wake up.
Don't let hiring nightmares ruin your dreams. LinkedIn Jobs' new AI assistant goes beyond the resume, using unique insights to deliver a smarter shortlist. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/quality. Start hiring today with LinkedIn.
The world moves fast. Your workday, even faster. Pitching products, drafting reports, analyzing data. Microsoft 365 Copilot is your AI assistant for work. Built into Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and other Microsoft 365 apps you use. Helping you quickly write, analyze, create, and summarize. So you can cut through clutter and clear a path to your best work. Learn more at Microsoft.com/M365 Copilot.
I think it goes back to the number one core value, right, is honesty. And it starts with being honest with yourself. And who are you, right, in this moment? What do you want to be, right? And making sure what you do on a day-to-day basis aligns with those goals. To me, it's an easy philosophy.
Mark Carney is the head football coach at Kent State and has built a reputation as one of the most consistent offensive minds in college football. A former quarterback at Fordham, Mark has coached quarterbacks, wide receivers, and tight ends, and has coordinated high-power passing offenses at multiple stops. His offenses have consistently produced explosive passing efficiency and helped accelerate program turnarounds. After serving as offensive coordinator, he was named interim head coach in 2025 and officially named the 24th head coach in program history later that year. Today's conversation connects his journey through the coaching ranks with the offensive system he built as a coordinator and how that system now reflects his leadership as the head coach.
Good morning, Crust. It's a great day to be a bread brother.
Ugh, mornings are not my jam. Or jelly.
Oh, come on. Stop loafing around.
I just woke up feeling hollow inside.
Psst, just grab one of the new Morning Uncrustables sandwiches, like Bright-Eyed Berry or Up and Apple, filled with 12 grams of protein and tons of deliciousness. Crust, what are you eating?
It's just granola, not even yogurt.
No crust, no fuss. Uncrust your mornings.
Today's conversation is with Mark Carney, the head football coach at Kent State. Mark's journey is a really interesting one. He's been a quarterback, coached quarterbacks, receivers, tight ends, coordinated high-power offenses at multiple stops, and now he's sitting in the head coach's chair at Kent State University. What stands out to me about Mark isn't just the production, it's the consistency that he's shown over time with the things he's been involved in, and wherever he's been, he's had offenses that played fast without feeling rushed, aggressive without being reckless, and when you dig into it, you realize that this system really reflects the man. And years ago, when Mark was at Charlotte, he did a clinic for Lawrence First and Goal where he talked about shifts and motions, not as window dressing or tricks, but as tools to clarify the picture for the quarterback, stress defensive rules, and create explosive plays while still controlling the game. So today we're going to connect those dots from his journey through the ranks to the offensive system he built as a coordinator, and now how that same system shapes and reflects his leadership as a head coach. So Coach Carney, it's great to have you here. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Absolutely. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah.
Great introduction, by the way.
I appreciate it. Well, Mark, I've known your family for a long time.
Long time.
First experience was with your brother, Sean.
Yeah.
Back in 2003, I had the opportunity to be the head coach of the East-West game, which used to be a huge thing in Cuyahoga County.
Yeah.
Right? That was a star-studded event. Your brother
Junior
was
All-Star games. Those were fun, man.
Your brother, we were on the West. Your brother was the quarterback for us. I believe he was the MVP in the game too, I think. But
maybe.
So that was my first experience with the Carney family. And then your mother worked for our athletic department, ran a tight ship. She really kept things together there while I was at BW.
Similar to the house, yes.
Yeah. So I mean, I think a lot of that reflects in what you do as a head coach and how you run things. But it's great to have you here on the podcast. Finally, I know you and I have talked about doing this a couple times over the years, so we finally nailed it down a time.
Yeah, no, it's been a long time coming for sure. We do go way back. I remember in that game, that East-West All-Star game, my brother's 5 years younger than me, and we always joke he got the athleticism and talent, and I got the height and good looks. One of them might be debatable, but no, that was maybe the first time, because when he was in high school, I was playing in college and started my coaching journey. So I never really got to see him play in person outside of the eighth grade maybe. And then I saw him in the All-Star game, and I think he fumbled a ball, like kind of dribbled it almost between his legs like a basketball player, and maybe got a first down or something. But he didn't stop talking about that one play for like 2 weeks. Like, I used to cross you up in the backyard and all that stuff. So
I remember that play too. Crazy athleticism.
Yes, he's gifted for sure.
So, for you, your journey in football, you just talked about it. You played quarterbacks, and you spent a lot of your career coaching the quarterbacks. When you look back on your playing days and the way you were coached, what did confusion feel like for you when it would happen? How did that really maybe shape how you coach quarterbacks?
Yeah, great question. I think, I remember a couple specific moments to that very specific question. One, I remember going to John Carroll football camp in, I think it was either 95 or 96. And Nick Caserio, who is now I think he's the GM, official title is the GM of the Houston Texans, right? Mm-hmm. He was their quarterback. And he was, given time with us, and he sat us down and started talking to us about coverage shells. And it was like, I understood 2 safeties versus 1 safety. And then he started talking about the specific coverages. This is cover 2, this is cover, 4, and this is cover 3, this is cover 1. And it was like, I had no idea what he was talking about. Like zero clue. Fast forward, I get to play at high school at St. Ed's, and, had a good season as a senior, got recruited after my season, and ended up at Fordham. Crazy recruiting story, signed for a staff in February. Middle of May, that staff takes another job. So Ken O'Keefe and his staff at Allegheny College moved to Fordham. Thank goodness they knew who I was anyway. 2 days after my freshman season, KOK takes a job with Kirk Ferentz in Iowa. By the time I left for Christmas break, man, I was on my 3rd head coach. That next spring, that head coach was Dave Clawson, right? Dave Clawson has an unbelievable career as a head coach and building programs. And, he had come from Villanova, where they had Brian Westbrook and Brian Finneran, and Chris Bowden was their quarterback. They'd set the world on fire offensively. And he's talking to me about progressions. And it was like, holy cow, I have no idea what you're talking about, right? I'm used to, hey, throw it over there, or, over there based on 2 high, 1 high. Is it man? Is it zone? So I think as coaches, sometimes we assume that people know things. So that was an early lesson for me is, no matter what, always start from scratch. If you get a new player in your program, if you get a new relationship, don't assume anything, as an educator. At the end of the day, I think our job is to be teachers, right? As coaches. And, the better we can convey information, the more successful we're going to have a chance to be.
Yeah, definitely. So for you, obviously not assuming anything, but I think also then you try to build your teaching so that there is clarity.
Sure.
What kinds of things, thinking back when you're that quarterback coach and you're responsible for that guy, and, if things don't go right for him and he's confused, that reflects on you. How did you build clarity into the things you were doing and teaching, and tools that really help them?
Yeah, I think Dave Clausen taught me. He was a 31-year-old head coach, offensive coordinator, quarterbacks coach. He was doing it all. I have no idea how he did that. I'm 45 now, 27 years seasoned in this thing, and I could I do what he did? Absolutely not. He was a 31-year-old genius. He spent time with me, right? He didn't judge me for not knowing, as long as I asked questions and had specifics that we could go over and targeted things that we could go over. He would spend time with me and help me work through my issues. And I think, that's the key to any great relationship and building trust, right? It's gained in droplets. And it's, you need time spent. Whether that's watching ball or competing, playing pickleball or darts or whatever, playing golf, like just spending time and developing trust in the relationship. There's an old adage, right? It's not what you know, it's who you know. And it's not what they know, it's what you can teach, right? Like both of those are true. You have to know the person before you can coach them hard, and understanding, where they want to go as young men, and then helping them connect the dots to get there. But, simplicity in teaching, everybody says kiss it, right? I was talking to Mike Elder about this the other day, right? Keep it simple, stupid. Everybody's heard that. I heard Rob Ryan on a football podcast, weird, talking about kill it, keep it learnable and likable.
Yeah.
And I think as long as you can master both of those, I think the guys have the best chance to learn.
Yeah. Yeah. Obviously the learnable and likable parts going to go a long way and help them, as well as the simplicity. And I think, bringing that clarity to an offense shows up, when you're the quarterback coach coordinator, in that, are you running a consistent and explosive offense? And that's really been I think a hallmark of the things that you've been able to do at your different stops. So, thinking about that when you became a coordinator, especially as you went to places that needed results quickly, is primarily why you get jobs, right? This is a place that needs somebody to help us come
Sure.
in, and you need results. What problems were you actually trying to solve on offense before you even worried about, here's the concepts we're going to use?
Yeah. I didn't go or play. I didn't go to Mount Union camp or anything like that, but I grew up in Northeast Ohio, and I heard Larry Karras's voice, and players formations plays, right? And, at the start of anything, is relationships and people, right? And whether you're a quarterback and understanding how to lead different positions, right? And have a relationship with the receiver and running back and tight end and all the guys that are protecting you up front, and the ways they need motivated differently, right? And they respond to different styles of leadership. I think that translated really well into my life as a coach. I've always tried to start with the players and understanding, one, who are they? What do they want? Right? What are their goals for themselves? And then two, what are their skill sets, and how can we best mesh the collection of skill sets to put the best product on the field? And, it obviously always starts with the quarterback, right? That guy's going to have his hands on the football every single snap. The center is equally as important, right? And I think clarity in teaching and consistency in messaging and rules or principles in helping guide the chaos that can ensue on a football field. I think you got to be rooted in, all right, this is who we are, and this is, how we're going to do things. And then, empower those people to make the best decisions in the moment.
Yeah. I loved Larry's philosophy, was able to see him speak. I think it was when Stan Parrish was the head coach at Ball State. He had Larry there, and Larry talked about, that was his topic, players, formation, plays. That certainly impacted me greatly. And you see that, that is all over college. Even guys in the NFL, Sirianni, talk about it. Like, I mean, you mentioned two programs there. You got the John Carroll Mafia, right? Like those guys are all over the place in college football. You have Mount Union all over the place in college football.
There's a fair amount of BW folks too.
Got a lot of BW guys too. Yeah, definitely. So Northeast Ohio, I think, just rich in football and coaching. I think a lot of the guys that go to those places just find a love for the game and go on and coach, and then you hear it everywhere. But a very sound philosophy, and one of the things you did, I mentioned, the shifts in motions. He spoke at Lawrence First and Goal.
Mm-hmm.
I really loved that presentation. We highlighted that for Lawrence First and Goal on the podcast in the past, and I'll link that for our listeners. Also put a link to that clinic. But I thought the way you laid it out was one of the best presentations I ever saw on motions, and you could see like how you've developed that as a tool to really develop, again, going along with that idea of clarity, clearing up that picture for your quarterback, for your guys, like pre-snap. So in the clinic, he said shifts and motions help quarterbacks be certain about what they're seeing. And, what are you trying to reveal to the quarterback when you move people before the snap? You're not doing it as window dressing. I mean, there's a purpose for it.
And the quarterback's got to be ready for it, right? We were very blessed at Charlotte. We had a guy who, through the COVID period, was able to be a 5-year starter and extended his eligibility through an injury. And I think he was a 3-time captain, threw for 10,000 yards. And, he was ready for that. He wanted to, he wanted moving pieces. He needed to see defenders communicate and, Will's bump back into the box. Are they communicating with the boundary corner and the boundary safety? Are they linked into the box? Are they not moving? Are they, so he wanted that and needed that. And, I felt really good about his ability to discern the different things that we were trying to gain, out of those shifts and motions. And, not every quarterback is ready for that. I want to make an offense that's player friendly, right? And create a system that's player friendly. So again, it all starts with the quarterback and his comfort level with the style of attack. The other benefit we saw at Charlotte was, from a time of possession standpoint is being able to take some time off that play clock. Now, this was prior to the headset communication and all those things. So we're using those tools a little bit differently, but it's all the people part. It all starts with the players, right? I always go back to that in my mind. No matter when I'm stuck or where I'm stuck, is people. It's always about the Jimmies and the Joes. Yeah, right? That's another one. You grow up in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, like you get to hear all of the old school football phrases, right? Jimmies and Joes, not X's and O's, and they're all true. Like they're all coach speak, but they're all so true.
Absolutely. In looking at, for our listeners, I guess it'd be really helpful how much of the movement you can put on a quarterback and I guess when he's ready for it. You look at football in general, we've moved from that era where maybe we were seeing more of these things. We certainly saw more under center. We got into an era of 10 personnel tempo, just line up and go, no motions. And then people really got interested in putting shifts and motions back into their offense. When you look at the highest level, I mean, some of the best offenses, they're moving like over 70% of the time. A lot of those guys in the Shanahan tree. So we know it's an incredibly useful tool, but I think your point, it goes back to learnable and likable, right? Simple, and built around who is this guy, what can he handle, and why am I going to do it for him? So I guess for guys listening who really want to use this as a tool, how do they do it in an intelligent way and starting to incorporate it with their guys?
Yeah, teaching the principles of, pass game is about spacing and timing, right? And matchups, I think. And, one, starting slow with it, right? Maybe it's we're motioning the slot from the field to the boundary, so he's not dealing with a nickel Sam, and now he's dealing with a will linebacker or a safety in space. Simplifying the ways in which you teach it and going slow. Hey, this is a matchup motion. All right, this tight end trade, we're going to see if the front changes, right? Maybe it's one or two specific little things that starts him, that player thinking about the process of, all right, we're moving here. This is why, right? I understand the why behind everything. These players these days, they all have to understand the why, and I was no different. So I completely understand that. I think a lot of coaches, are getting these kids are different. I don't think these kids are different. I think these kids are the same. I think they crave structure. I think they crave discipline. I think they crave relationships, right? And I think they crave knowledge and our ability to, help them retain that knowledge and grow our game. I think is more imperative now than almost it ever has been. The transactional world of the portal recruiting and all that, we're gonna dive deep with our guys and not be afraid to. Maybe we only get 2 years to impact them, but we're going to impact them. And spending going back to the people, spending time with the people. I think is the most imperative part of building. Whether it's a program, an offense, a relationship, whatever.
AI is incredible. It can teach you how to fry an egg and even write a poem, pirate style. Yarr! But it knows nothing about your work. Slackbot is different. It doesn't just know the facts. It knows your schedule. It can turn a brainstorm into a brief. And it doesn't need to be taught. Because Slackbot isn't just another AI. It's AI that knows your work as well as you do. Visit slack.com/meet Slackbot to learn more.
In looking at motion, I really love how, you look how the pendulum swings with everything. So we talked about hitting an arrow, no movement, right? Coming back. And now the creativity in the movements it's incredible. I mean, you're seeing a lot of the orbit motion. Now you'll see a guy go in orbit motion and then come back the other way, all kinds of misdirection it's creating. The other one I think's become really popular is like the inside to out rather than just all the way across inside to out to create some leverage and spacing, like incredible tools. What have been some of your favorite?
Great one. I think the everybody's, used the tear motion at some point, the back coming out of the backfield. That one now return and having mesh mechanics off of it, I think are really, really cool. I think one thing you've seen in the NFL for probably the last, 5, 6, 7 years, as the Shanahan tree has expanded and grown, and McVay and all those guys, is condensed sets in the NFL and exploding for width, right? To create leverage and angles. And the other, outside of players, formations, plays, right? Numbers, angles, grass, and how you attack people. Joe Moorhead taught me that a long time ago. And, finding numbers advantages, finding angles advantages, whether that's run or pass game, and then grass. You got to be attacking space. And I think the best of the best combine those two philosophies, right? And making sure when they are attacking space or numbers that it's going to the best guy in that situation, right? No secret to me, like Matt Stafford and like that crew is back in the picture they're in right now. How organized they are, and if you watch them, it's not a lot. Like, they don't do a lot from game to game, but it's very, very targeted and allows Matthew to really sink his teeth in each week and get the best out of that plan.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I think it's about finding those simple ways to create stress, and certainly the creativity comes into it. But like you said, it still goes back to you're going to keep it simple. So this may look very complex for a defense, but for your guys, it's simple, it's learnable, it's likable.
For sure. The other thing you always got to think about is when you are changing strengths, right? And you see it a lot in the jet motion and then jet return motion is with the guys up front, right? It's great to be able to do it as a skilled player and have the quarterback understand the why. The O-line and the center better be on the same page too now, because Mike points are moving, right? And rotation changes, and having something clued into that play call where they can anticipate, hey, my initial ID might not be the ID we're after, post snap.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to offer this, just thinking about, the creativity of it. And I've talked about this on the podcast before, but I think the best way to get validation or clarify what you're doing is make sure that you go down the hall and talk to your defensive guys. So when you're putting this stuff in camp or in spring ball, go down and ask them, like, hey, of the things we're doing, what affects you the most? And, that's where we've either, killed ideas walking down the hall, talking to Jim Meyer or Tommy Watts. Like, yeah, this one is really causing a lot of stress. This one didn't do anything to us, right? And then understanding why within their framework, because maybe it doesn't work against them, but another defense it might. I think those kinds of conversations really help you as a coach clean things up as well.
I remember, in my younger days, I was never a GA. We didn't have those. I was a restricted earnings, which sounds like a violation of some antitrust law somewhere. You know what I mean?
There's some labor laws being violated.
Yeah. No, I was connected to so many great coaches. Dave Clawson built unbelievable staffs. I mean, I had, I don't know how many years with Mike Elko, right? Like that guy's unbelievable. And being able as a 24, 25, 26-year-old guy to go and bounce ideas off him, right? And Clark Lee was on our staffs, right? And Russ Huseman, the now head coach at Richmond. I mean, the amount of football minds, that I was privy to have access to, and utilized, spending time with those guys was awesome for my development as a coach.
Definitely. In looking at this, doing some research on, again, just your track record, what you've done, you've had some teams statistically near the top in yards per completion, which means explosiveness in the offense. Yet at the same time, you've also had strong time of possessions. We don't always necessarily see those things coincide. I guess for you, how is that built? What was that intentional in how you do things? How important those stats show up? How important are those to you?
I think, statistics can tell a story a little bit. I think when you're relying on those, you're probably seeing it from a lens that I don't. But I came up in the 2-3 jet, Scat Pro. This way, it was a West Coast system, right? And my job as a very unathletic human was to get the ball out of my hands as fast as I could into somebody else that could do something with it. And it was, a lot of our completions were extensions of the run game, right? It was a fullback arrow off a trap pass. It was it was the tight end sneak off the same protection. It was, getting the ball into space, into different players' hands. So I think efficiency, right, as a passer has always been incredibly important to me. Making sure that when you are throwing the ball underneath the sticks, when you are throwing the ball, inside of those 10-yard completions, that we are supremely accurate with it. I think the best of the best do a great job with accuracy to all fields, right? I think to play quarterback at a high level in college football, you have to be supremely accurate underneath 10 yards. Your spot throws, right? Your stick throws, your arrow throws, making sure those are catch and carry balls, all the mesh stuff. Your ability as a quarterback to be accurate is paramount in the way we evaluate and recruit, and the way we instruct, the way we try to build the system for the Q. So, I think that has always remained a focus. But there's been a lot of systems, right? There's been, there was a year at Virginia State, we had 2,000-yard backs. There was a year at Virginia State, we had a 2,000-yard back. Call plays to put your best players in the position to touch the football the most. because chances are if you do that, you're going to have a great chance to win the game.
Yep. Goes back to players formation play.
Absolutely.
So looking at the teaching side of things, when you install,
Yeah.
what are the things you emphasize first? What's most important to you? Is it the rule, the picture, the concept, for those guys, or the intent, the why? What do you feel is most important to start that process with them?
Yeah, I think it's a balance. It's a great question. I think it's a balance, though. I think it's you have to understand whole teaching philosophy a little bit, right? Hey, this is the big picture. This is what this play looks like in its entirety. This is everybody's little job and the details that will make this play work. And then, all right, going back to the whole, let's understand the why. When are we calling this play? What situation is it for? Is this a 1st and 10 play? Is this a second and off schedule green zone play? Is this what areas of the field are we going to use this? What are we hunting? What's the ideal look for this? Hey, if I don't get the ideal look, then what's the next best options? I kind of get a kick out of the whole like NFL. Is it pure progression? Is it like everything's a little bit of everything, I think, right? Like, no pass play, no concept fits like one. We're only calling this versus man, or we're only like. Hopefully, you're not building your offense like that because you're playing a guessing game. These defenses are so good with disguises and being able to play multiple things from the same picture. Jay Bateman was another guy like I got to learn from. He lined up in what looked like cover 1 and then would play cover 2 and cover 4 and cover 6. Like, it's like, holy smokes. You got to be rooted in those rules and principles for a quarterback, right? Especially for a center, who's involved in the IDs, especially. But there is going to be some pitcher you haven't seen, or you got to be willing and ready to adapt, on a down in, down out basis.
Yeah, I think you have to have that adaptation built in. Like it needs to operate. It needs to be an operating system, really.
Yes.
It can't be these stringent rules. And like you said, I mean, if then you as a play caller, it's about being a good guesser, right?
No doubt. You're putting a lot of pressure on yourself to be perfect, man. And I ain't seen many that can do that.
So now as you move into the head coach's seat and you have, an offensive coordinator, as the head coach, how do you evaluate whether the offense is healthy? What are you listening for? Maybe it's from the quarterbacks or watching for on the sideline to know, like, okay, we're doing well.
Yeah. Moving into this chair was it's something you go through your career and you're always, do you want to be a head coach? Are you ready to be a head coach? Maybe some years, yes, maybe some years, no. Right. And, then all of a sudden a situation like ours happened. It's like, well, go, whether you're ready or not, buddy, go. And I tried to jump in and again, we talked all spring, when the leadership change here at Kent State happened, all summer about keeping the main thing. And the main thing was improvement, right? Because we weren't very good. And for me, growing up in Northeast Ohio and watching my mom and dad, they built their life and they created opportunities for themselves and us as their children, through hard work and what they did on a day-to-day basis. And I read a book, Atomic Habits, and that word hit in my head and created an acronym of core values that I always want to be rooted in: honesty, accountability, belief, 1% improvement, tenacity, and selflessness. And tried to create a space and environment as the head coach where, everybody could be authentically themselves and chase individual improvement that led to, collective improvement. And, we had some healing to do after a couple rough seasons, staff, players, everybody. And, that had to happen quickly, and it did. We utilized the transfer portal in a lot of different ways to create the best team we could for 2025. And, we did the same thing this year. for 2026. And at the end of the day, it goes back to players, formations, plays. Right? I'm a scheme guy. I love X's and O's. I love ball. I love being involved in the schematics and the chess match in the week, in the course of the game. But I knew to be the best that I could be for this team, like that was probably something I needed to sacrifice. Because as the offensive coordinator, I didn't know a lot about the people on defense, right? Diving into the life of the linebackers coach, right? And the backup three technique, and making sure that the people were healthy, right? And I think when you're walking up and down the sidelines, I think you notice program health with, our guys engaged and encouraging their teammates, right? Or are they, here we go again, Kent State's going to lose another football game. The energy, the attitude, and the effort that you bring into our building every day takes zero talent, right? Let's be great at those three simple tasks. Be about improvement and being better today than we were yesterday, and the rest is going to take care of itself.
I love the acronym habits, and I reread that book often.
Yeah.
That's an incredible book.
I think I've read it 5 times now.
Yeah, it's so good. It's one you just want to pick up again and
it's quick, man.
Yeah, and it's one of those things, like, he keeps it simple, stupid, right? It's
Yeah,
like,
no doubt about it.
sense.
No doubt about it.
What's really been fun, and I follow Kent State football because both my parents are Kent State alums, and I have always followed it. So I love seeing, one, you had the opportunity, you became the interim head coach, you took over. Obviously, those things always happen with adversity. I think you handled that incredibly well. Really saw, in following on the whether it's been on the internet or social, just following what you're doing, the energy, the enthusiasm I think you're bringing to the program. You could sense the change. I think that's been really cool to watch. And I think you've done it in a way where you can look at it and, I've, obviously learned about you more over time and had some conversations with you. Like, this is the true personality of Mark Carney coming out. He's not copying and pasting something else. He's running things how he wants. And because he's doing it that way with that authenticity, I think that's what's making it successful for you.
Yeah, I think it goes back to the number one core value, right, is honesty. And it starts with being honest with yourself, right? What and who are you, right? In this moment, what do you want to be, right? And making sure what you do on a day-to-day basis aligns with those goals.
Yeah.
To me, it's an easy philosophy. Like,
no doubt. Yeah, I think one of the things, this is my favorite thing, anytime I see it come up, and I've been seeing it, I think, for 93 days now, is your tweet. You've been tweeting a picture.
I missed a couple days, yeah.
Of Julian Edelman basically every day, over 90 days now, until he comes back and signs the tradition wall.
Yeah.
And, I think there's some consistency, obviously, with that, some humor.
Absolutely.
I really think it points to the importance to you of the relationships, not only with just the players in your program, but what this means to guys who have been there before. And I think that mindset is showing up in how you build that culture inside the program, that this is a relationship-based program. Absolutely.
No, you hit on, Northeast Ohio, right? In the rich tradition of coaches, great tradition of players too, right? And the high school programs around here are run the right way, right? By really, really good football coaches and really, really good humans. And, we're always going to have opportunity, for those guys to stay in Northeast Ohio. But I think it's important here. Football is important here, right? This is a football culture place from a region standpoint. And I'm excited to continue the build with this group in the coming years.
The last question I have for you, more for our young coaches out there, and I just wrote an article and put it out the other day, pointing out coaches who have had success. I pointed out some NFL guys first in and stepping away from the play calling role. Not an easy thing to do. When you think about how we grow through this profession, and when you get the opportunity to be a head coach, it's usually because of what you did as a coordinator. Yeah, there's those guys every now and then who weren't coordinators, but for the most part, that was our role. That got us the recognition, that showed our track record. So it's, in some ways, I think, a security blanket to us. There's sometimes that ego involved in it, like I'm really good at this. So for young coaches who maybe have to make that decision, and want to be the head coach, the CEO type of role, I guess for you to feel comfortable, what things do you look for? Okay, this is the identity of who we were on offense. I need this to remain. This is kind of non-negotiable, but I'm turning it over to you. What kinds of things do you look at that maybe fit that role, that also give you comfort, like, I've built the system, I can step away from it?
I think, one, as a young coach, I think it's really easy to get enamored in, I know this guy or can connect with this person and run his style of play. Or what is your identity? What are you built in? Because I think there is across football, right? I don't know when the last original idea happened, but everybody's a good thief, right? We all kind of repurpose things for our own way, and I think that's what's great about our game, or one of the great things about our game. But being rooted in who you are, right? Understanding these are my non-negotiables, right? My resume is the tape, right? I don't care how many signs I put up around this building or how great relationships are. If we don't win games, if we're not, we're not getting results, they're going to fire me, right? They're going to fire us. So making sure that whatever goes on tape, you're proud of, whether that's an effort thing, an attention to detail thing. Like, what are the standards? What are the non-negotiables? What are those things that I am not willing to sacrifice? Because every time that group goes out there, that's a reflection of me. There's another great book, Tim Grover, Relentless, right? And he talked about all his work with Michael Jordan. And he's like, yeah, it's your name on the back of the jersey, but it's my work, right? My name's in there too, because I'm going to be judged on your performance. And that stuck with me a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Mark, it's been fun to watch. I'm really excited for you, the things you're doing here. I know this is going to be, a full year one now of what you're doing, and, focused on growth, focused on improvement. I know how you work as a coach, so I have no doubt, that you're going to have continued success with this, and just want to thank you for your time and sharing these ideas with us, and wish you and the Kent State Flashes the best of luck moving forward.
Absolutely. Appreciate you having me. Love what you're doing for football, and appreciate what you're doing for our great game, man.
Before we wrap up, if you want to go deeper into Coach Carney's thinking, his full Lawrence First and Goal clinic is linked in the show notes. You can get your Lawrence First and Goal tickets now at lfgclinic.com. We're on a new platform with all of the previous clinics as well as the new clinic. You'll find that it's a better user experience, and all the clinic content will be live there going forward. This episode also includes an AI companion, so you can explore the ideas shared today by Coach Carney more in depth and apply them to your own program. You can find that at coachingcoordinator.com, and the link is in the description.